This is the Money Loves Women podcast, the podcast that guides women to wealth and an extraordinary life. Here's your host, Dr. Deborah Ekstrom.
This is Dr. Deborah Ekstrom for the Money Loves Women podcast. I'd like to welcome Kara Renninger, and she is a woman with years of experience who helps entrepreneurs align their goals in businesses, and she does this particularly by paying attention to practical and accessible solutions. And she's working mostly with seasoned entrepreneurs, it sounds like, to get them to the next level and to help them to scale, which is the goal of most businesses. So welcome, Kara. And before we get started, give us a little context around yourself, around your growing up years, and who and what influenced you.
Thank you so much for having me, Deb. Yes, I'm so excited to be here and share with everyone about scaling businesses. Actually, I came into this business in a rather unique way. I was working with different companies, helping them scale in the past. And one of my children, I have four, ended up getting diagnosed with a rare disease. And at that time, I had to make a lot of decisions to help him make progress in his life. And that's when I really started learning about making data-driven decisions. Had to quiet the noise, cut out everyone in the family and around's opinions, had so many specialists coming at me. And at that point, it was really life or death for my son being able to eat or not. And that's when I started to really narrow in on making data-driven decisions. And thereafter, as we continue to rehabilitate him and help him get to where he is in life today. And so that's where my passion really comes from, in helping women make decisions without guessing, making data-driven decisions, and feeling empowered.
That's awesome. So you took something that happened to you in daily life or in your family life and applied it or refined what you were doing for business. It sounds
Very
like.
true. Yes.
Where did you grow up?
In the Pennsylvania area. So I grew up
All
in the
right. So you
Pennsylvania
grew
area.
up in Pennsylvania. You're still outside of Philadelphia. And what did your parents do? And then what went on with your influences from them or whoever and your education? Tell us about that.
Yeah, I think my father worked in a supervisory position in a construction company for many years. So I always saw him working very long hours, very hard. And, you could see those stresses, the pressures of being in that position in a business, but he wasn't the business owner, so that was the challenge there for him. I think it was ultimately you couldn't shift some of the things that were problems if you weren't the business owner. I didn't know that at the time, but looking back now, I can see that. And my mom worked in insurance. And so over the years, raising me and my sister, she worked part-time into full-time. And so we had a home of two working people who were very busy trying to care for two children. And I think I learned a lot from that experience about the way I want to show up for my own children, the time I want to spend with them, and have those opportunities to create that freedom for myself in my life. Again, I think I don't know that I knew that when I started in business, because it was out of necessity. I had my son at home. We had to do homeschool because of his health. And so was put into a lot of situations, I would say, rather than choosing them. But I've created the life that I want to be able to raise my family the way I want and be a successful business person. And I'm very proud to be in that position myself.
I get it. So your parents were hardworking. You saw that. You got a work ethic from them. But you also saw that they didn't have control of their time. They didn't have the ability to solve problems that might have frustrated them because they didn't have control. So what happened, not as an epiphany, but over time and from circumstances, you decided you did want control. You wanted better time freedom so you could devote the time you wanted to family first. And you wanted to have control of your trajectory. And that taught you then to offer that to other people, because obviously lots of people want that. So
yeah, very much so. I mean, I kept over the years, I kind of fell into business, and people kept contacting me and asking me to work with them and to coach them. And it was the same pattern over and over again, is that lack of freedom, especially women, feel when you have multiple responsibilities and you're pulled in different directions. And so it's something that I felt super passionate about, that we can achieve goals and dreams also while maintaining our core value of our family, if that's what your core value is.
Excellent. So, what kind of degree did you study, or did you study in college as well?
Interesting story also. I didn't get my degree until much later in life. It's on the wall across from me, I think a good 5 years ago or so. It took me a long time. I became a mother the first time when I was 19, so very young. And then I said I had 4 children. So I really went on a different path. And I've had a very unique career, filling very high positions, running companies without having my degree over those years. And it was something kind of personal that I wanted to do later for myself, and that I accomplished. I can't say that it's changed my life or my trajectory or my career in any way, but I still feel happy that I have gotten that for myself. It was a personal goal.
What kind of business? Is it a business degree or some other degree?
Communications.
Communications, excellent. And you certainly need communications in what you do. So this is very interesting, Kara. So people started coming to you and asking for your help. Were you working then, or were you a full-time mom?
I During those first years, I was actually at home with my kids. My son had the feeding tube, and I was homeschooling my children at that time because of health reasons. And I had a lot of people that would come in and out of the house to work with my child on special education. And actually, that's where some of my earlier work started. Is those people saw my skills and my strength in business, in how I manage things, in making progress for goals for my own children. And so several of them asked me to do work for them. So that's kind of how I fell into it. And then just over the years, just from reputation and experience, I really only work with purpose-driven entrepreneurs. And I think that's a part of it, is the people that I connect with. It has to be connected to a purpose where they're making an impact in the world and adding in a greater value. And so I think that's what attracted people to me.
Very good. So tell me, give me a little context around purpose-driven businesses. What does that mean exactly?
People who are trying to make an impact. So education is something that's very important to me personally. One of my personal goals, my personal vision, is to create a foundation that changes the way education is delivered in the United States for people who learn differently. And I generally am always impressed that I think the universe lines life up for me, that those are the people who come to me that are somehow connected to that vision, even though I may not be fulfilling it completely yet for myself. I end up getting clients that are connected in different ways. A client I work with now, for example, has a documentary film about reading in the United States. So another one is an author. So it's just always interests me that those are the type of people that I get connected with and really help them scale their business. It's not that we're not focused on the business, because we are. And my whole position is about making data-driven decisions. However, when there's that purpose behind what someone's doing, when they want to make a transformation for other people in life and make an impact, I don't work with people who sell products or things like that necessarily online in on Amazon or anything like that. It really has to be someone who's trying to make a transformation. They really wholeheartedly believe in the work that they're doing. The money just happens to come with that, from good business decisions.
I think most people want to work with a business that is purpose-driven. Most people want to, unless you're doing a side hustle, people want to have purpose in their life, right? So I can totally get that. I'm glad you're in education, because my concern is that one of the major problems we're having in our country is deterioration of education and the loss of innovation for multiple reasons in education. So you're assisting entrepreneurs in that area, and good for you. I love that you're doing that, because
Thank you.
it's very, very needed. And we need to innovate in education, or we're going to have real problems in the future.
Yeah,
And
I think from my own experiences, we don't value people who learn differently. And I just use that term very generally. And so I find that a lot of people who are creative, who are entrepreneurs, have different ways that they learn things. And everybody seems to have somewhat of a hidden secret that they feel like they're hiding, because maybe they have a hard time being organized. They generally have a lot of great ideas, but they have a hard time getting them out there in a way that's going to be sustainable and generating, future wealth. And that's what I help people with. That's the connection that I have, is that I'm very supportive in that way. I'm very understanding, and I'm grateful that I've had the life experiences I have had so that I can connect with people in that way. And those are the people who generally make the biggest difference in the world, but have a hard time doing it themselves. So for me, that part feels really good, contributing, to the world in a different way. And I value every human and their skills and abilities, and I want other people to see that in the world too.
yes, not only for people who learn differently, but anyone learning. I think we need innovation. But
Yeah,
obviously, for people who learn differently, they're the most vulnerable and the most at risk for being left behind, right? So, uh, yeah, that's really great. And you got personal, up close, very emotionally intense experience with that.
I do. And that,
Yeah,
it
yeah,
always helps. I think it always helps and it keeps it exciting out in business, right?
absolutely. So I have a question for you, Karen, because you didn't go and get a degree in business or communications or marketing or any of that. You didn't do that. So you were at home schooling your kids, you were managing a household, and yet you developed business skills. And did you do that with intent, or how did that happen exactly?
That's a good question. I mean, I think that's my nature. My nature is to be very organized and structured, and I can be very analytical. I think one of my strengths is seeing the vision for my business and for other people's business. And sometimes that's something that's hard for people to hold on to or to create for themselves early on, is that vision. And I seem to have that as a skill that's strong for me. So I can see that vision, and that's, I think, how it started developing. It was genuinely out of my own heart and the desires for my own child's health and well-being. And you can't beat that. You can't beat that mother's desire. And so that's just what led me. And I learned that it worked. When you make data-driven decisions about education, about health, about anything, that's what works. And I'm not for the guessing games, and I'm not for, women can feel empowered. They can make their own decisions. They can choose themselves. They can choose their family, and being able to make a decision for yourself. So many women, even now, even friendships that I have, so many women can't make a decision, and it's very stifling for them, and they need to ask someone else or get so many opinions. And I'm not that kind of girl, I guess. My mom always jokes with me, my refrigerator broke, and I was like, I went online, I looked around. I even think I let one of my kids who were older help me pick one out, and I just bought it because I need a refrigerator and mine was broken. And my mom was like, how could you not go to the store and touch them and feel them? And it just wasn't necessary for me. It was, something that needed to happen. So I think that's a bit of my personality and style.
Sounds good. So it's obvious to me that you're filling in a skills gap or something, a perceptions gap, or maybe both, with the people that you're helping. They have strengths in one area and then are smart enough to recognize that they need assistance in the area that you can provide. So you help them get organized, you help them get focused, you help them set goals. Is that what you're doing? Or, I don't want to be guessing. Tell me what you do. Pretend I'm an entrepreneur who's got a great vision and I have a great purpose and I really want to move forward and I've got some funds to make it all happen, but I need help. What's next?
Yeah. So, I mean, what I say is to help coaches, creators, consultants stop second guessing their next move and get laser focused on what really matters for growth. So, with that, I work with people. I've put together what I call the balance and scale method now. And I work with people in that program. And that's putting together my life's work and in business on how to scale a business. And scaling a business, it always goes through the same three phases. And so, in the first phase, we're focused on data driven growth acceleration so that we can get the insights we need to scale the business. In the middle phase, it's about the strategic success scaling blueprint. And it's really using your own insights. One of the big mistakes people make is they're out there buying programs, trying out perfect webinar and, this cold call system or whatever it is, but they're not using their own insights from their own business to make decisions. A lot of, women that I work with get caught up in mastermind groups and different things, and they're just not having their own facts. So we focus on insights so we can get to mastery. In the middle, it's the scaling blueprint, and then helping them. The third phase is scaling on repeat in the business. How do you make it repeatable? Another mistake I see people make often is trying too many things. It can feel challenging when you try something and it doesn't work as expected. And that can really let people feel down, and it makes them really question their confidence. And so when they're questioning their confidence, they, instead of looking at the insights from what did work about the situation and then building upon that, I tend to see people going and creating something new. And so what I focus on is, let's have one really great thing in your business that's scalable and repeatable. That's what's going to create the freedom later for you to explore and to add in new products and try new things. But in the beginning, being scattered like that, it doesn't benefit the business. And so that's an area where I really help people move through the balance and scale method in a process that helps them get the results.
Great. What I'm hearing you say is what I sometimes say: put your boat in a fast-moving stream, not in a rivulet, not in multiple rivulets, not in stagnant water, in a fast-moving stream. So you help them. It sounds to me like you help them with their ideas and sort of fleshing out what where they need to put their boat. First of all, in the fast-moving stream. What's the fast-moving stream that they've decided on that is purpose-driven and is scalable in the long run? Because isn't that so important? We like to do things, particularly when we're passionate about them, and not necessarily pay attention to whether they're scalable and whether they'll create
Yes.
cash flow, the cash flow we need for our life, not just for our livelihood, but for our investing. So you
Yeah.
look to see whether they're scalable, and that's so smart, right? And it's really, really great to have somebody to bounce that off of and to kind of keep you on track so you don't get lost in your passions. Um,
Yeah, so many people are multi-passionate like that. People come to me and they're like, but I like this, I like that. And nothing about scaling your business means that you can't be multi-passionate. And some of those things might be volunteer activities for you. And some of them, when you get your business scaled, you may be able to create scholarships or a foundation and do things differently. But to be able to put yourself in that position, to be able to give back in those ways, you have to be able to have a scaled business. So what I do is give people the tools that they need so they can start making decisions from the very beginning instead of guessing and wandering around and being distracted by things. We get right into the tools, we get right into the data, get the insights, and then start making decisions. And it's so empowering for people, especially women. It's so empowering, and it's fun to watch them be able to see themselves scaling and making decisions that they didn't know they could make for themselves. They don't need someone else to tell them what to
yes.
do. When you use insights from your own business, you do know what to do.
Where does the data come from? You're doing data-driven decisions. These are people who already have cash flow. These are not startups. These are entrepreneurs who already have cash flow and need to take it to the next level. So, are you pulling out their financial data and their key performance indicators, or what are you pulling out for them?
Some of that, some of everything. Actually, as part of the Balance and Scale Method program, I have a section about what to do, how to move forward without having all the data. When I bring up data, it usually makes people nervous and they think, I don't have that, or they don't want to commit to making decisions from data right away. But again, I'm
Okay.
modeling and showing them how that's actually empowering. It's actually, disempowering to not have information to make decisions, but it takes some practice. So I offer resources and show them. Depends on the business, of course, your financials, of course, your KPIs. It's also going to be based on what type of funnels you have in your business and Google Analytics, what other metrics you have. So I give them all the information to find where that data is. A client that I work with right now, she does SEO website work. And in the first month of working together, when she started getting her data and her numbers together, she had such a big shift because she was thinking that people weren't signing up for her program just because they wanted free things. But it turned out she was just targeting the wrong people. And so it was a simple fix that immediately adjusted her income when she changed her messaging. So it's as simple as that. And that's what I start to help people get quick wins. And then they get excited about data and making decisions. And the other thing is, it's really, it never ceases to amaze me how many people can make multi six figures by accident. I'm always in awe and wow about that. And so imagine if you can do that. A lot of companies come to me at that place. And imagine if you can do that by accident, if you actually put intention to it and use your insights to drive your growth. Imagine what's possible then.
That's really fabulous. That's really fabulous. So I get what you say about people being a little scared of the numbers at first. Why do you see that more in women than men? And if so, why do you think we're scared of the figures? Why are we scared of the numbers that are going to give us our success and drive us forward? Why? Why
Yeah.
are we scared of it?
I will say I do see it in both men and women.
Okay.
And I think especially in women, and I think it's just a commitment. It's like a commitment fear. It's like facing reality, and it's showing up for yourself. If you're looking at numbers, then that means you're committed to impacting the numbers in some way. Otherwise, if you were just doing your business for fun and you didn't care, the numbers really wouldn't matter to you. And most people aren't in that position in life. Even if you are, you still want to be making sure that the business is profitable and allows you to do more things. So I think it's just that people are really scared of commitment. They're also scared, especially women. I notice this. They're afraid of technology and they're afraid that they won't understand things. So I always say what I do, it's fad proof, it's low tech. there's lots of different technology tools out there, but it's not hard. It doesn't have to be complicated. And I think that's what scares people. They're afraid of the technology. They're afraid they won't be smart enough. They won't understand it. But that's just not true. It's just not true. Everyone can understand it and everyone can get their data together. And that's something I'm super passionate about, is helping people just see that for themselves, that it's not something to be scared about. And you can't get somewhere new if you don't get a clear vision of where you are now. You're not going to shift it. And that's where people really get stuck.
Fabulous, Kara. It sounds to me like you really meet people where they are and then walk them forward at the pace that they can handle and with the data they can handle to get their confidence going. And I think so
Yes.
much of it's about confidence. So much of it. When do people come to you? What's the trigger that brings them to you?
Probably the confidence thing. That's part of it.
Yeah.
You're right. It's when people, it's that we actually just had a special event I did about 2 weeks ago about self-doubt as an entrepreneur. It's just such a topic. Part of it is meeting people where they are, like you said, Deb. And people come to me at different phases. I have people who come to me and they're making the multi six figures, are exhausted. They're so tired. They're running their business all the time and they don't see any way out of it. They're taking their computer on family vacation to answer customer service. They're not really scaled up. They don't have the team built to support them. And delegating is another big challenge area. People feel overwhelmed by hiring a team. And that's something that needs to happen when you're scaling a business. It has to be done in the right way. I remember a business that I worked in, and it was like, the owner at this time just wanted to keep hiring more people. But hiring people doesn't solve your problems. Having processes and systems in place is what solves your problems. And then you make sure you test that they work, and then you hire people to fill those needs for you. And people tend to do it the other way. I'll just hire a virtual assistant to take care of this for me. And that's the opposite of what you need to do. And
Yeah.
sometimes, in that situation, I was in that situation with that business where the owner was making those decisions and they had to learn the hard way. They were wasting a lot of time and money in that sense. So I say people, who are ideal to work with me, who come to me are already generating. If you're not at six figures yet, you're close to that. You have a proven offer or something that you've been testing out in the market and that, you're ready to scale. You're ready for your next level. I talked to somebody this morning, a potential client, and he said he's tired of being a potential. He's ready to claim his worth. And I was like, good. It's a good thing to hear. That means you're
That's
ready.
a huge step forward.
Yes.
So one of the things you said struck me about systems and processes. And one of those systems and processes needs to be training, of course. So that's important when you're getting ready to hire and put your team in place. You need to take the time to train. And lots of entrepreneurs don't want to put a training system in place. They don't feel like they have time for it. They just want people to learn on the fly. And that doesn't make for really great processes. But systems and processes are such an important part of making a business successful. And it's also a really important part of getting your time freedom back, right? And of getting you replacing yourself so that you have a business and you're not just self-employed, right?
Yes.
Am I right about that?
Very, very true, Deb. And so many people are focused on wanting that freedom. And that's another area where fear comes up, is especially women. We don't want to be overcommitted. We already feel overcommitted. We already feel exhausted. And I have one client in particular that I've worked with and really had to do a lot of work on this for herself. And, we got to the point where we said that actually planning your time is freedom. And it was such a mindset shift for her because, it's like entrepreneurs, they don't want to commit to the team and the training and the building, because then that means that you're committing to showing up consistently. And that's scary for a lot of people, but it doesn't have to be. Like I said, if you have the right systems in place, then adding a team is actually part of leveraging your time. And it's something that's going to make things go so much better for you. The reason why people are afraid to commit to it is because they're thinking about doing it the wrong way. I'll just hire the people and deal with it. If you think about it the other way around and you think of what's not working, what system do I need in place to address this, and make sure that that system works, then you can bring people in and it just totally takes it off your plate. And leveraging your time is how you scale a business. You have to leverage your time because everybody has the same amount of time and everyone will run out of it if they don't leverage their time for their business.
Yeah, that's the one thing you can't get any more of is time. You can get
Yes,
more money, get more
that's right.
team, you can't get more time. Well, it sounds like you're doing really great work. Do you have any particular uh, books that you follow? Do you follow the four disciplines of execution? Do you use Scrum? Do you use um traction? What sorts, or some combination of all those, or something you entirely invented yourself? What do you use to help people get systems and processes going?
I think it is, an influence of all things, as you said. And I put together the Balance and Scale Method program, and that is really the culmination of all of the tools that I've used. And I really just like to keep it simple for people. When you
Yeah, yeah.
when you make things overcomplicated or you have to follow a particular system or another way, that's what tends to bog people down and where they feel they doubt themselves. They're not sure they can do it. That's not their personality. That's not their style. So we have to work with people where they are, as you said earlier, and find what will work for you. I had somebody I work with who um, didn't want to be on video. That comes up a lot for people. They don't want to be the face. They don't want to be on the video. So first of all, that's something to look into for yourself, is being willing and able to show up for yourself physically in your business and show your face. But beyond that, if that's not something that you enjoy, then we have to help you structure it in a way that's going to be supportive to you. And that's part of the work that we do in the Balance and Scale Method program too, is on that mindset. In addition to the very actionable items, is setting yourself up for success with your calendar. I'd say the biggest, most important thing that needs to happen if you want to be successful in business and scaling is to start getting strategic with your calendar, that time management, and really plotting it out, planning ahead. I give out some tools for a weekly preview on how to maximize your time, and then a daily preview. And setting intentions for your day is another huge part of business. You don't just show up and wait for things to happen to you. The people who aren't scaling, that is what they do. People listening might be feeling like that now, where you feel like you're ruled by your customer service or what's happening. And you have to shift that, and you have to say, okay, what are the goals that I want to happen? How do I make that happen? And then using whatever tools work for you in the business.
That sounds great. So, scaling, balance, all of that, and time management. So, I'm sure some people are better at that sort of thing, or certain parts of it, than others. And it sounds like you fill in the gaps or help them fill in the gaps. Sometimes it's nice to have a set of eyes that are outside, who are also on your side. So, a coach or a director or someone who can help you with that. How long typically are you involved with a business?
Typically, with the Balance and Scale Method program, I work with people for a year. It does take time to scale. I have a plan together where people can really increase their revenue within the first 90 days. And it depends on the person and, them being able to move through that. And then we work together for the year because you need support. That's the biggest thing, is people need support. As you're learning to make your own data-driven decisions, it's helpful to have somebody in a space to check in, who's been there, done that, used that before. And I continue to teach people how to use those insights. While you get your initial data together for your business, it might not be that much. You might just be creating KPIs and getting data tracking in place in a way that's going to support the business. And so that's why we work together during that year, so you can continue to support, because every new level, you face the same challenges in scaling your business until you get to the place where you have a team built out. And that's not for everybody right away. Some businesses aren't going to have large teams. They're going to be smaller businesses. So we're looking at ways that we can make whatever you do in your business repeatable. That's called scaling, if it's repeatable. If it's only dependent on you and you're the only one who can do it, and you can't leverage your time in some way by doing a group, if you're coaching or something like that, then it's going to be harder to repeat, to be
Yeah,
able to
that's where
scale yourself.
processes and systems and teams come in play at that point,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So I just want to do this little caveat. So business is one of the most common and most doable paths to wealth. So I just want to remind our listeners that that's the reason we're talking about this. And have you run into anyone who can't really do business? I mean, is there such a thing as someone who can't do this?
It depends how you want to structure it for yourself. There's people who struggle with certain parts of business, and that's where you can bring in others to help you with that. So something I talk about with the clients I work with is leveraging your time, is and getting help. I remember at one point in scaling my own business, I ended up hiring somebody to help do laundry in my house, and that was something I would have never spent money on. That was just like, you do that yourself, and it was just that sort of mindset shift. So wherever it is that you can leverage your time, is part of what you need to do. I would say that the only person who's preventing you from getting to where you want to go, to answer the question, is there someone who can't do this, is yourself. It's us limiting
Absolutely.
ourselves and having those beliefs that we can't. So if you believe that you can't do it, then you might not be successful. But if you can learn how to create goals and start to build your confidence, then yes, I think
Excellent.
everyone can be successful.
Excellent, excellent. So I loved that little story about the laundry. So one, I don't know if you know what our pillars are with Money Loves Women, but the pillar is to make a decision for wealth. That's the first one. We talked about decision making earlier and how hard it is. And the next piece is taking responsibility for your money. And that's just what you're doing. You're telling them, okay, let's find your data. Let's find your KPIs, whether it's in your life or in whatever you're doing in terms of how you create cash flow. It doesn't matter if you're in a business or in someone else's business as a high performer, right? So taking responsibility for your business or for your money, and then the next piece is assessing your mindset. And I'm sure you deal with that right through, and so do we all, right through all of it, whatever we're doing, whether we're doing responsibility or whatever we're doing. It's mindset. What's getting in the way, and how do you need to pivot to make that mindset support you? And then the next piece is designing your life with wealth in mind. So it's interesting. You got busy, and then you put a laundry person in place, and I think that that's an under appreciated pillar of wealth building and success, is that you need to make your life work so you can work. And I think that's hard for us, especially as women, to give up some of those domestic tasks that we, in fact, actually enjoy. At least I do. I enjoy them, but I don't do them anymore because not all of them. Some of them you're stuck with. I mean, or you just have to do, right? You have to organize your house. You have to organize your closets. Those are things it's difficult to find someone to do. But having an in-home assistant, I have found, has freed me so much to really focus on my business. And someday I'm going to write a book about that, how you get an in-home assistant, how you find one, hire one, and direct one, how you put your processes and systems in place in your home so that that person can be effective for you. And I think that's just like doing a business. It's just like you need to train that person. You need to direct that person. You need to have processes for that person, and right from beginning to end. And when you do, it creates a huge amount of time and space for you to enjoy your life more, enjoy your family more, and creates time for you to improve your cash flow. Otherwise, it's a distraction. So there you go. You found somebody to do the laundry. Do you do all the rest of your homemaking yourself? Obviously, you have to parent.
Yeah, I mean, well, my kids are actually in college right now, so I'm in the new phase. I actually have three in college and one who's finished, so we're definitely in a new phase. And some of the things I do myself, some of the things my husband does while I'm working, and some of the things I continue and always have hired people for. So I'm glad you brought that up because I feel like it's also an area where women are afraid to leverage and feel some sort of responsibility, even in households where the responsibilities may be more shared. It seems that the women that I've worked with, it's a challenge for them. It's a challenge for them to leverage their time in that way. And you don't have to be having a huge cash flow to be able to leverage your time in that way. That's the difference in the mindset is we have to think about if we were to add in the supports, if we were to leverage our time differently, it might help us scale our revenue and increase our cash flow faster. And
Absolutely.
I feel like I've always have done that. Like I have the experience of I had a nurse in the house 50 hours a week. So I've always had a lot of people around for the healthcare needs. But at the same time, I've always leveraged my time in that way. And I think it's just a massive empowerment notch. Women, especially this time of year with kids going back to school, like a lot of the clients I notice, they're not really giving themselves grace about that. It's like, I should get this done. I should get that done. The amount of energy that it goes into to make your household, to care for your family the way that you want to get kids back to school is a lot. And sometimes we just have to give ourselves grace and say, okay, that's the season I'm in or the time right now. And that's where setting intentions and goals comes back into play because you can have that flexibility to say, oh, my kids are home from college on break. So this isn't going to be my most productive time. So I'm going to plan ahead for that for myself and know that the times around that are going to be more productive and what I need to accomplish because my core value is my family. So when they're here, that's what I'm going to be spending my time on. So I'm glad that you brought that up because I do find that people, it's almost like a shame game for women or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't say
Yeah.
that you have a house assistant or someone who helps with this or that. Certain circles of women, you say they can, but I think it's something everybody should consider.
It's interesting. I was walking in one day. I was on a committee to advise the president of the hospital, and I was walking in with one of the other women who was on the council, and she said, "Oh, I was up at midnight last night, folding clothes and ironing and doing my laundry, and I suppose you probably are in that situation too." And I go, "No, I have an in-home assistant. I am not up at midnight doing laundry, nor will I countenance that." And she was like kind of taken aback. It was, I love to do laundry. I mean, I'm not to mention I'm Dutch, so the Dutch, they wash their front steps and almost shine the faces off their children. So I have that natural gene, and I like it, but I have handed that off. And I think it's a good idea for women if they're not in their own business, or if they are, but if they're not in their own business and they get promotions at work with raises, that they think about putting that money instead of life into lifestyle, into freeing up their time, whether it's for their families, which families they grow up and then you're done. I mean, the only time you have now is when they come back from school, right?
Right.
And they're nearly launched adults. The other thing I wanted to bring up was it's totally reasonable and, in fact, appropriate and desirable to draft your children into your labor force at home. That's how kids develop those skills, and to not have your children develop those skills just because it's easier for you to do it yourself, I think is almost a form of abuse, because they become dependent, or they don't understand the work that goes into sharing a household, boys and girls. And really, really important for them to contribute to the family. I had a coach one time who was teaching, don't do anything for your kids that they can do for themselves. So early on, 10, 12, they need to learn to do their laundry. They need to learn to fold clothes. They need to learn to put them away and clean their own rooms, learn how to handle a broom and a vacuum cleaner and make their beds and so forth. And this is great, great training. I got that training at home because my mom went to work. It was the best thing that could have happened. My mom went off to work, and we had to clear the dishes and do the dishes in the morning before school, sweep the floor, make our beds, and make sure we got out the door intact. We were a little older, but it was great training, and I'm so thankful that my mom, she was also happier going off to work. And there were 5 of us in the home, so 5 kids. So, it forced us to work together, and you don't always get along really well with your siblings. Forced us to work together, forced us to get that stuff done, manage our time so we were out the door and on the bus off to school. So it's perfectly fine to draft, and appropriate for you to draft your children, and to whatever extent possible your husband as well, depending upon what his contribution is to the bottom line at home, right? And how you've divided your labor. So sometimes if you've divided your labor so you're full-time homemaker, it is appropriate for you to do more. However, if you are both in the workplace, it's appropriate for you to split up the tasks. And I think women are reluctant sometimes to give more tasks, or request or require more tasks from their spouse. It can create friction. And sometimes men have been taught in their families that that's not part of their job, although less so now with young people, I think. Do you see that too, that younger people are being much more egalitarian in that way?
Yeah, I think there's, definitely even having young adults, my own children. I think that's common. And I mean, I will say that that's been my life as well. And maybe it's from having a child with healthcare needs, but sharing responsibility is something that's important early on in a relationship, especially if somebody's an entrepreneur. Being an entrepreneur can create a lot of freedom in your life, for women especially. I think it can create a lot of freedom, and there's a lot of skills that we have to share and help others. And so it's an opportunity to leverage your time in a different way. Like you said, even if you're in a job right now, you're getting a promotion and you want to start a side hustle for yourself and get something going on the side, just leveraging your time. It's about believing that you have value too, that your only value is not just in your role in your family, but seeing yourself as an individual. And I'm not saying that's been easy for me also, but it's something that's important, as you're thinking about your business and scaling, is all the ways that you can leverage your time in your business, in your home. And if you see other women doing those things, just be supportive. I always say my mom is the smartest woman I know because she never cooks. My dad's cooked always. And I always say that is the wisest woman I've ever met. I want to be like that.
That's very good. I like how all of that has gone for you, and what a good role model. And I think it's important for us to remember to be role models for our children. Um, and also to not be afraid to share your challenges and the solutions you're finding and what you're doing at work with your family, and your kids especially, so that they can learn, because we all get so influenced by our growing up years, right? And I hear that over and over from women, because we always talk about it at the beginning of the podcast, and it gives us context. But it's so interesting to see what those influences are. I had one person on, and he would do his stock trading with his dad. His dad would include him in that, and he got really interested in that, probably because it was dad time.
Mm.
And it's great. It's a great way to share mom time or dad time with your children, showing them these skills and these processes. And imagine, Kara, for your children to be able to come out now and know this balance and scale system, my mom's balance and scale system. It's so funny. My kids never gardened much with me. I always had a big garden. I love to garden, and I love growing things, and it's probably the farm girl in me. But the interesting thing is, they all garden. They didn't come in the garden a lot with me, but they all saw it, and they ate the food, and they all garden. So it's really interesting how we influence even when we think we're not influencing. And they're little sponges, right? Big sponges sometimes. What happened with your kids? Did they absorb? What kinds of things do you think they absorbed from you, Kara?
I think somebody said once to me the statement, I really liked it. It's not monkey say, monkey do, it's monkey see, monkey do. And so my kids are all very hardworking, maybe overdoing it sometimes, and that might come from me a little bit. And so I think, when my children write a card for me or share something with someone else, that's what they say they've gotten from me, is that you can achieve anything you want to if you put your mind to it. And that makes me feel really good. That's what I've wanted all along, is for all of my children and women in business and everyone to feel like if you want to achieve something, you can. There's nothing that can hold you back. You might have to do it in a different way than someone else did, but you can get yourself there. And so I think hearing my children say that and just sharing experiences with them. Yesterday, I was having a conversation with my youngest daughter, who's very stressed at college, and it's very challenging, and it's kind of hating it. It's kind of like, what am I doing to myself here? Planning 8 years of college. Why am I doing this? And I said, just because things are hard, it doesn't mean that we don't want to do them. It just means that, we have to give ourselves a little grace as we go through them. And I was explaining to her how that's in business. This happened last week to me with business, and that happened, and it's kind of mimicking it. So I'm definitely learning that more now as my own children get older. Seeing what I do and how I've worked. And I think they're very proud of how I help other people and the type of businesses that I help. And so that means a lot to me too.
Probably just that role model, that's what you do and that's your purpose, will also help them to have purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And that gives life meaning.
Yeah, they're definitely finding their purposes now, and it's really fun to watch, and fun to experience. And I feel that same feeling when I work with people in business also, when they start to uncover what will work for them and how to move forward. It's just such a beautiful thing to be a part of, to see people growing and getting empowered.
Kara, that is so heartwarming to hear what you do for people. Um, I'm very impressed and delighted that you're out there doing it, especially for women, but men also, and taking on that task of helping
Thank you.
entrepreneurs grow, because it is the lifeblood of our country to have those businesses growing and hiring and developing improvements in our society. So thank you for what you do. Can you give us one last bit of counsel? If you were going to let women know something that they could do, or men, I have men that listen too, one bit of advice or counsel or coaching of something they could do right here and now to increase their success, and especially their financial success, what would you say?
I would say to do an activity. This is a simple one, but I call it the keep, start, stop activity. And it's really powerful. So you can just get out a piece of paper, write down a column. What are you doing that's working that you want to keep? What's going on in your life, in your business, and everywhere that you want to stop that's not benefiting you? and what do you need to start based on those, or what do you want to start? And just giving yourself that time and space, and actually do it. Don't do it in the middle of something else. Create some space for yourself. Block an appointment on your calendar. Put yourself in a comfortable space where you feel secure and relaxed, a candle, whatever the thing is for you. Don't just do it in a hurry. Just really think about it and tune into yourself. Do a meditation before if that's something that works for you, or some deep breathing. Like, once you allow yourself that space, it's very easy to get in touch and say, I'm not doing that. One other thing that I do with a lot of people that really helps is create a no manifesto. It was probably one of the most empowering things I did for myself, and allowed myself to get clear on what I'm no longer available for. And once I started to do that, the way I did it was I just started jotting down notes for myself, like things that I didn't like, the way my body felt when that was happening, in my work day, or in those situations. And that's what shifted the power dynamic for me, to allow me to start making choices that were going to help my business scale. And just allowing myself to say what I don't like. I think sometimes we forget that part. I know I certainly did, being a mother
Yeah.
and working. I didn't think about what don't I like. So once I let myself do that, it made me get much more clear on sort of the keep, start, and stop. So that would be my best advice, is just really try to lay that out for yourself. And I think you'll get a lot of insights right on your own from doing that activity.
Yeah, I have unpleasant, negative customers on my no. If we're
There,
not a fit, and they're not nice to my staff,
that's a
that's a
no.
no. Politely and kindly, please go somewhere else. And you probably have other no's. I have, I don't know why I have them, but I have really good boundaries. And I think it's hard for us sometimes to have boundaries. And it sounds like the no manifesto helps you create your boundaries.
It does. And later, in work with people, we switch it into your yes manifesto. It's what are you
Yeah.
available for? And so it's a
Yes.
it's a nice
Yes.
shift.
And it's overwhelming if you don't say no to anything, right?
Yeah, and I think when
So,
people think about boundaries, like you said, Deb, it's like saying no when someone asks you to volunteer somewhere, or go for dinner when you don't have time. And that's not really what boundaries are about. And boundaries actually can be very supportive for the people that you have relationships with as well, is just to have clear expectations. I think that's one thing people would say about me, is you always know what to expect, when interacting with me. And I believe that being clear is kind, and and that's how we can set boundaries that are going to allow us to achieve the goals that we want, have the time that we want. And so it's something that's available and possible. And hopefully doing that activity to keep, start, and stop will help your audience start to get some clarity around some areas that they might need to have
yeah.
some boundaries in their life.
Keep, start, and stop, and then the no manifesto, and eventually the yes manifesto.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to say about saying no is I think as women, we have a hard time with no. But there's kind ways to say no, and there's also kind ways to say no, but. Would you like to be, could I recruit you for X, Y, and Z committee? No, I'm not able to do that right now, but I suggest you talk to Kathleen, my neighbor, whose kids just went off to college, and she's really interested in finding a way to contribute to the community. So there's ways that you can say no, but still give options, kind of create a negotiation. So I think whenever you can be an extraordinary resource to others, even though you're saying no, um, it can be more palatable to say no and create that boundary, right?
Yes, I
You
agree.
have some fabulous, fabulous tools, Cara. If someone wants to reach out to work with you and get involved with some support to take their business or their life, it's not always business, or is it always business? Do you sometimes help people that are ascending through corporate, negotiating corporate advancements? Which
Sometimes I work with people who are earlier in business, or, considering starting something else
Mhm.
as well. So I actually have a free masterclass that I can share with your audience if they want to watch that. I
Super.
think that can give some insights into scaling. And then I'll also offer, there's a link on that page if you want to schedule a free scaling appraisal call to see if you're at the place to be scaling your business or not. You're welcome to do that. I only have a few spots available each month. So just be aware of that. You can go to kararenninger.com/schedule, and that's where you can find the masterclass and the link to schedule.
Spell your first and your last name for us, Kara, in case they're listening right now in their car somewhere, so they know, so they end up in the right spot.
Yes, it's Kara dot R. No dot. I messed that up. Kara, KARARENNINGER.com/schedule.
Great. So Kara with a K, Renninger with 2 N's, please. And it's .com/schedule.
Correct.
Super. So go check out Kara's site if you need assistance or you think you're ready to take it to the next level, didn't know who to talk to, didn't know what to do. Have an exploratory interaction with Kara and see if you can't improve your scaling and get more freedom in the process and grow your wealth at the same time. Okay.
Sounds great. Thank you for having me, Deb. I really appreciate it.
So enjoyed it. Thanks for coming on, Kara. This is Dr. Deborah Ekstrom for the Money Loves Women podcast. To your health, to your wealth, and to your happiness. May blessings rain down upon you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Money Loves Women podcast. Please leave us a rating and review so we know how we can improve. Visit moneyloveswomen.com to gain more insight into how to live an extraordinary life.